Hello, everyone. Happy Monday. Oh my goodness, happy Monday. What a interesting topic we have today. And like every Monday, these videos are not meant to be all light and fluffy. They do tackle some of the challenging topics, some of the challenging things that we have to deal with our own shadows in the world that we're here in, the things we have to navigate in order to rise up into our heart or drop down into our heart, to bring that wholeness to ourselves, to bring that unity consciousness, to bring that living love into being. And today we're talking about a little controversial topic. It's controversial because it's rife. It's rife in this world, not just in the spiritual community everywhere, but especially, in fact, in the spiritual community. There is a massive part of the spiritual ego which is very active right now. And that is the cancel culture. Judgment, communication, or lack thereof. He said, she said, pointing fingers, and thoughts and opinions about others and others' perspectives and what they're bringing through. And it's a really interesting one, because it can lead very easily, without even realizing, to this culture of being cancelled. And it's quite a new thing, we didn't really have cancel culture, hundreds of years back. I mean, I suppose we did, that would be the persecutions, but it was a lot more finite years ago, because cancel culture hundreds and hundreds of years ago meant death, right? That's what cancel culture was then. When someone got triggered and fingers were pointed and blame assigned, what happened was death. Persecution, we had the witch trials, the burn-ins, we had wars, slave trade, all these things. And all of these things started, the vibration of which is really because we are disembodied, we're out of our heart space. We're feeling threatened, we're feeling judged. And the irony is that that's not who we are, truly. Yet we see it in today's world, and it happens on many different levels. And hundreds of years ago, when it was very, very finite, and very, conclusive, really. Nowadays, it's not. It's very prolonged. The grieving process that we would have been able to go through, it's near impossible to really go through, because it doesn't seem complete ever. And this is really important to talk about, because that incompletion of anything, of a trauma, which we all have, in any of our timelines, every one of us have timelines of persecution. Every single one of us have timelines where we have been persecuted, enslaved, or anything of this topic. And when we look at the day that we're in right now and where we're going, what we're hoping, wishing, desiring to achieve, we are looking for this utopia, right? We're creating this utopia, this blissful existence where we can just be. We don't have to second think or double check what we're saying for fear of it being misinterpreted. We can channel through whatever is coming through, because the vibration that we are offering is clear. And just to go over what vibration is and how you get that clarity. The clarity of vibration is about all of your thoughts. Now, not just your mind. When we say thought, people think that we mean brain. Thoughts happens on a cellular level, in the astral realm. Everything, whether you see it within yourself or not. And just to put it into perspective, we only see about 1% really of who we are consciously. The rest is in the unconscious, the subconscious world. The rest is shadow, illusion, and inner child wounding, right? And all these things we are all going through. We are all in a state of PTSD in some way, shape, or form. We are all healing from something. If you're physically focused in this reality, we all have healing to do. That will not end or conclude, really. It just blossoms and unravels. We just bring those shadows back home to us. That's what we do. So we have a very different experience. The more we integrate those shadows, the more we heal ourselves. But this is really what we're experiencing, is you have the heart-based consciousness, And then you have everything around that, everything trying to get back to the heart within us. There are some that I've used this example of helium balloons. Whenever we have a part of ourselves that's been judged or shamed or ridiculed or guilted, and usually this happens when we're a child, when we're a baby, it's like all that energy goes into a balloon that inflates and inflates, and it's on a string and it's away from us, but it's still attached around the belt, and around our solar plexus. We still feel that pull, and we can't actually see it. Maybe it's behind us, maybe it's invisible, but we feel it. We see the reflection of it, the shadow of it. We see it through others. And our goal really is to, every time we get the honor of seeing one of those balls of energy, one of those balloons, one of those shadows, and we only see them through others, through how we feel, we're meant to bring those back in, as uncomfortable as it feels. We're meant to bring all those back in. Really feel the emotion and let that story, the wounded story, conclude. It's fully felt. The stories are thought about. They're consciously and cognitively made aware of within our being, and we can complete the cycle, complete the story. But oftentimes what happens, and you see, this is quite interesting, because in this world, especially in the spiritual community, and this is why we're talking of spiritual community here, because there is this big push to not be a part of a matrix, to not be a part of the collective, some call it the 3D, some call it the matrix, various different things. But in letting that go, we also have to let go of our self concept, the concept we've created of ourself, and the role we play in exiting that system. For example, when we associate ourselves too much with a vocation, with a title, with a name, we self-actualize. We put a level of importance around the vocation, and all that really does is it can expand the ego, right? All of us are channels, because that's what we're doing all day, all day, in and out. We're always channeling, just different levels of consciousness depending on what we've integrated. All of us are healers in some way. Some are meant to do that as a mission here, as a sole purpose, but we all have that innate ability, because to be a healer is to be a channel, and vice versa. But it's really interesting, because what most don't talk about is the trauma bond, the PTSD, the what's that syndrome called, where you identify and you I forget the name now. Stockholm syndrome, where you enamor yourself with the concepts. This is a psychological trait that we all do. It's built in because it's a trauma response. And it's really important to bring that up, because we can identify and put so much meaning behind what the matrix is, or what the third dimension is, and our escape or our ascension through that. Now, what tends to happen is we actually rely on it to be who we are. That's our identity. That's who we are. We base our individuality on that concept, which is so wounded and so warped and so out of balance. Now, why is this important? Well, because cancel culture is based on feeling threatened. But it's not ourselves, our truest self, feeling threatened, because we can never really be threatened, because we're eternal. We're eternal life. We're eternal love. We're living love. That never changes. And the more of who we are, the more that we integrate our shadows, the more light we house, the more of those old beliefs, those trauma beliefs start to release, and it doesn't have its hold over us anymore. Yet there is also the parts that, when someone says something and we have an innate resonance or lack of resonance with it, sometimes we have resistance. And I know our Arcturian friends would always say that resistance, at the very base of resistance, is fear. And the ego will always deny that it is afraid, because the ego likes chaos, but it likes structured chaos that it's organized itself. And the ego will always protect the identity it's created. and the identity that's been nourished through the emotion that it's felt over the years. But this is what's really interesting, is the ego will always deny when sorry, excuse me. The ego will always deny when it's threatened, you know? The ego will always deny when it's afraid. And instead, what the ego would do is the ego will go, it must be you. It must be you, it must be you, it must be you. What they're saying is dangerous, it's irresponsible. What they're saying is not correct. Do you know this person did this 7 years ago? That makes that we must condemn them. They are evil, they did this 7 years ago. But what we're forgetting, excuse me one moment. Powerful topic to talk about, hey? She says, drinking a massive carton of coconut water. What we forget is every moment in time, we are recreating ourselves. Every moment in time. So every second that you breathe, you're breathing out your essence, you're breathing out who you are, and you're breathing it in again. You're recreating yourself. You're not the same person you were 10 minutes ago, 10 seconds ago even, let alone 10 years ago. Someone who knew you 10 years ago does not know you now. You are a completely different being. So are they. And there are many, because we are all in this, like we said at the beginning, this complex state of trauma, still healing from many things, that without realizing, our ego will attempt to bypass how we're feeling and project out. Our ego will also seek to find someone to blame. Now, no one from anyone's past really was doing anything other than what was divinely meant to be happening in that moment. And that can be a challenging concept to welcome in. Challenging because we feel hard done by. We feel like something was done unto us that we did not consent to or agree to, or we had an experience that we don't want to take accountability for creating. We want to say someone else created that, and so disempower ourselves. And the ego loves this. This forms a great basis of spiritual ego, though. This is really quite interesting. And this isn't to say that anyone watching this is necessarily doing this. This is something just to be aware of, because we need to know how to remedy these things as they arise. We need to know how to remedy them so that we don't, if we ever experience it or see it or actually participate in it without realizing, we can acknowledge it, become aware of it, we can remedy it so that it does not repeat, so that we can conclude the wound within us that is moving through the collective right now. So this is based in judgment. This is based in judgment of others because we're judging ourselves without realizing. When we have that perception of another, when we have an opinion on something someone is saying without knowing the context, without being there to experience it, without being there to actually curiously just ask the questions to the being that's bringing something through, or whatever that might be, an experience that someone may have had, we forget that no one has the same experience. And to condemn someone to the past is to condemn ourselves as well as the victim of that. And we're all deserving of more. We're all deserving of more. And that's what we're all striving for and moving towards. Now, how do we create this space of love where it's okay to share and to express? Well, it's recognition. We have to recognize that we are not the emotion. We are not who we are when we are acting out of alignment. If there is a trauma coming up and we react to something, if we say something or do something in a moment where we're triggered, yes, we have to take accountability that we are creating the action, but at the same time, we have to forgive ourselves in the knowledge that, and others, we have to forgive others in the knowledge that ourselves or them are not in alignment at that point in time. So what that means is it's not actually them, their truest selves. If we say that who they are is their heart, the source energy, it's not them, but it's a wound and it's a trauma trying to come home to the heart. When we get triggered or when we get pulled, what we do is we increase the ego side of it. We increase the cycle, the loop. It then becomes a lesson of Saturn, you know? So every time Saturn goes through a retrograde, it comes back and it comes back. Or when Venus goes through a retrograde, if it's something to do with love, it'll come back on magnetism, you know? We want to be able to conclude these lessons. And it starts and ends with whether we can see that everything that we feel or think or worry about or have an opinion on about someone else, whether we can see that actually that's a part of ourselves that either feels threatened or worried or does this and we're unaware, a part of ourselves that we've judged and been taught to judge, shamed into judging because of consequence, because of, external identification. And so if we self-observe and if we breathe deep enough, we breathe enough love into our heart in those moments to recognize that, wow, I'm just observing someone's alchemy, because that's what emotion is. It's alchemy. Then we can hold the space. Instead of presuming we understand what someone is saying, we know what someone is saying, ask the questions, because no one really speaks the same language. No one's language is the same. One sentence that I say, that I speak to another, may mean one thing to me, another thing to the other being. Everyone has a different way of communicating. We're here to be master linguists, to really understand, to really seek to understand, not take anything personally that anyone is saying or doing, because the moment we start saying, do you know what that person did 10 years ago? Or the moment we say, I don't really want to do, I don't really believe what this person's saying. I don't think that, bringing that through in a clear way, or it's not for us to say, but let's be mindful of what we're propagating and what we're putting out there. Because even if it might be about another, and if the intention might be to good intention, you may be feeling like you're trying to protect someone. Is it really protecting them? It's like if there is a child climbing a tree and you say to that child, careful, you don't fall. Chances are there's a very good chance that child's going to fall from the tree because you've put that, you've planted that in their mind. But if you say, look how strong you are, to that child's going to climb up, it's going to climb down, it's going to feel safe. Probably won't fall at all. It's the same psychology behind it. But in the culture, in the adult realm, and in the world that we're in, as soon as we mention something, we kind of all go, because we all have this fear, this underlying fear, whether we choose to admit it or not, that we'll be cancelled, that we'll be abandoned, rejected, slandered, persecuted. We can't remedy it by propagating it, ever. So what do? If we're receiving it, if someone is sharing something, I can say, oh, thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that, but I don't really want to presume that I know anything when it's so out of context. I don't know how they were doing whatever. It's not really for me to say. Thank you for sharing, but I'd appreciate it if we just stick to you and I and what we're discussing, It's a really interesting practice to always have the benefit of the doubt. Because let me tell you now, someone who always has the benefit of the doubt, whenever they hear something, they live a blessed life, right? We must stop canceling one another. We must stop casting dispersions on one another. Everyone has their unique voice, their unique way of bringing through something. There is zero finite truth. Not one being can say something that is more true than another, really. It's up to you to discern what feels like it resonates, it's the highest of the high for you, and what truth helps you discover your own. And the things that don't resonate as truth, they're also a gift because they're helping you say, that doesn't feel quite right to me. So perhaps I have a different truth. I wonder what it is. And we can't find that truth without going into our heart. That's where all of those things are located. We could talk about this for a very long time, but I'd like to just conclude it now. We're around the 20-minute mark. I will see, I believe, some of you this afternoon, because the wonderful Jackie White is hosting a talk with myself and Shirley Batty, the wonderful Shirley Batty. We are going live, I believe, on her Facebook page, the PLG, Inspirations PLG, at 2 p.m. on Monday. You can watch the replay as well. So today, and we're going to be talking about judgment. I do believe I believe that's the topic, judgment. And it's a really powerful one, because we all, no matter who you are, no matter how aligned we are, all of us in our human mind will cast judgment without realizing it on some level. And the more we self-observe, the quicker to awareness we are, the quicker we can remedy it into love, so nothing is created from a misaligned state. So I look forward to seeing you all on that Facebook Live. I will see some of you in person, for those joining me in Hampshire, in Emsworth, on the 16th, Sunday the 16th of July. It's going to be a really powerful, really beautiful day. So do join us for that full day retreat. And I will see most of you, I think, on Wednesday night for Atlantis and the Essenes, the wonderful online workshop I'm co-hosting with Camila Kumara. So much love.